Welcome to another edition of the Regen Library. I believe this is episode number 5 now, and I've got a treat for you. Paul Brody has a new book out. Paul Brody and I have been good friends for a number of years, and his book is entitled Ethereum for Business. And the subtitle here, A Plain English Guide to the Use Cases that Generate Returns from Asset Management to Payments to Supply Chains. If you want to pick up the book, it's available on Amazon, but it's also available at the University of Arkansas Press. And I think Paul prefers you go through that route. All of the proceeds from this book are going to public goods, which is why I think it's an important topic for today's Regen Library entry for Greenpill. If you take your picture next to the book like this, email it to Paul and the team, you can mint a limited edition NFT on the Polygon network that's going to be available through the rest of this year. And with that, let's get into this. Man, I'm going to need some reading glasses for this one. Print's kind of small. That's how you know you're getting your money's worth. There you go. Oh, much better. Let's see, Chapter 8. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. Here we go. Chapter 8. Why Ethereum? When I was a young IBM executive, my boss once explained IBM's leadership philosophy as dictatorship tempered by assassination. I think I got the message. I needed to either get with his program or have him assassinated. There are not a lot of assassinations in the IBM offices, but you could be reassigned overseas. It's cleaner and just as effective. It turns out to be a pretty good explanation of how technology ecosystems work as well. Over and over again, we see ecosystems where there is a single large player and then perhaps a few smaller ones clinging on with specialized applications. In the case of blockchains, we now have a clear winner, Ethereum. To understand how we got here and where things are likely to go, it's useful to look at the history of other technology ecosystems. The evolution always starts with some early innovations that appear to create an entirely new category of product. Not long after the first computers came into existence, the need to connect them created the business of computer networking. Computers themselves went through multiple phases, from mainframes to mini computers to PCs, and then to phones. Smartphones make a great case study of how early ecosystems grow explosively and then how they mature into hardened categories with dominant market leaders. The early stage explosion of smartphone innovation began in 1995, long before we knew to call them smartphones. IBM built the world's first, called Simon, and marketed in cooperation with Bell South. It had limited functionality and cost an absurd amount of money. IBM Simon came out in 1995 and just sold 50,000 units. Nokia followed suit in 1996 with the Nokia 9000. BlackBerry launched its 850 model in 1996 as well, though it was not yet a phone, just a two-way email device. In 2001, smartphones represented less than 5% of the global mobile phone market, but Research in Motion, the maker of BlackBerry phones, was taking off. By the time the iPhone launched in 2007, the market was just over a decade old, and BlackBerry and Palm and Nokia led the market. The first Android phone arrived in 2008. At that time, about a quarter of all phones sold were smartphones, and the market was accelerating rapidly. The period between 2008 and 2012 was the peak of the market evolution, when a huge number of different options were available to consumers. It was not going to last, however. Today's Android share of the smartphone market is greater than 75% worldwide. Apple's share is about 24%, and all the other choices amount to under 1% of total smartphone sales worldwide. Software economics and network effects. Two key laws drive the technology market towards dominance by just one or two entities. The first is Metcalfe's law. Metcalfe's law says that the value of any network is equal to the square of the number of users on the network. That means, quite simply, that networks with more users become exponentially more valuable than their competition. This was meant to apply to actual computer networks, but it turns out to work equally well for anything that has network effect. App stores and instant messengers are both good examples. Indeed, the immense popularity of BlackBerry Messenger is thought to have done much to slow BlackBerry's collapse after Android and iOS became so powerful as die-hard users held onto their messaging networks of friends and family. The second law is one that says that the marginal cost of software is zero. That means if you're an incumbent in the market and have already spent the sunk cost to develop high-quality software, you can add new members to your network by selling your product at a very low price, since it costs you nothing more to make one more copy. The combination of low entry pricing and sticky network effects makes it exceptionally hard to dislodge incumbents in a marketplace once they get a significant lead on others in an ecosystem. The greater your value that comes from others in the market, and the larger the share of your product that is software, the faster you can achieve sustainable market dominance. Blockchains tend towards the more extreme end of this spectrum. They are really valuable only as networks for transferring products and services, and they are entirely composed of software. For that reason, I expect that Ethereum will indeed become the dominant blockchain ecosystem, and it's also why I don't believe in the multi-chain hypothesis you often hear from, quote, industry experts, unquote. That's why I have never invested in cross-chain connectivity. At some point, the markets seem to shift from an experimental phase and absorbing new technology towards one where a single standard or market leader starts to take off and become more dominant. I believe this happens when the use case starts to take precedence over the technological novelty and the buyer's behavior changes. In the world of enterprise mainframe computing, this seems to have happened when mainframes were widely adopted for handling large-scale transaction processing. IBM's first big hit with early mainframes were utilities, insurers, banks, and airlines, all looking to efficiently handle millions of customers doing routine, repetitive transactions. Mainframe computers drastically reduced costs and increased reliability. In many technology ecosystems, market leaders seem to emerge within about a decade of the product category being born. MS-DOS, soon to be MS Windows, was the leading PC operating system by 1984, about 8 years after the first PCs emerged. iOS came into existence just about a decade after the smartphone category emerged. From office productivity such as Microsoft, network equipment, Cisco, to cloud computing such as Amazon, the pattern repeats. My hypothesis here is that once the technology reaches a good enough stage, better technological foundations don't trump the killer use case. Spreadsheets and word processing on Windows worked well enough, and the companies that made and sold PCs, which was primarily IBM in 1984, were good at serving the main buyers, other enterprises. The combination of good enough technology and enterprise services was enough to tip the scales. The same kind of experience is being repeated today in the world of blockchain. Over and over again, new Layer 1 blockchain networks are launched that claim to offer vastly better performance than Ethereum, more transactions, lower costs, and faster finality. In the end, this doesn't seem to matter compared to the value that is locked in the Ethereum ecosystem, with thousands of applications and developers and billions of dollars of capital. The world of blockchain and smart contract platforms is now over a decade old. Bitcoin is T13, and the earliest versions of Ethereum date from 2014 and 15. In the last year, Ethereum has seen off nearly all its main challenges and executed a major upgrade from proof of work to proof of stake. Short of a major screw-up by the collective leadership of the Ethereum ecosystem, it's likely to continue in the dominant market position. One thing to note, however, is that losers don't go quietly or quickly. Microsoft may have emerged as the market leader for office productivity suites all the way back in 1993, but IBM didn't give up on Lotus 123 until 2013. As late as 2015, when I left IBM for the second time, I was still getting the occasional 123 spreadsheet from old-timers instead of Excel. BlackBerry's market share of the global mobile business actually peaked 2 years after the iPhone debuted and didn't fall below 5% until 2013. For those same reasons, we can expect many of the unsuccessful, quote, Ethereum killers to be around for years to come. It won't change the outcome, but it will contribute to a lot of noise in the market. Once a new technology finds a set of use cases that drive initial adoption, a technology ecosystem enters a period of mainstream adoption. But the evolution of that ecosystem doesn't end there. At some point, the network itself becomes the use case. The fact that, quote, everyone is on it and has access to the same core infrastructure becomes more important than the original use case. Spreadsheets are still widely used, but most people have PCs for a huge variety of tasks, and new applications are often launched on PCs or over the internet because they are widely available. Indeed, the value of a network is so great that it can overpower other challenges. Phone calls and video conferences over the internet are a great example. The internet doesn't have, quote, quality of service or any foundational way to prioritize one kind of information over another. That's terrible for calls, but because everyone has a PC or phone with a network connection and a camera, it's easier and simpler to put up with spotty connections than build a new network. And so it will be with Ethereum. The existence of a vast global network where millions of people and companies have assets and can make business transactions with each other will, over time, become more important than the particular features of the network. And so the use cases will continue to grow and evolve. Ethereum today has accrued the most capital and has the most active developers, participants, and infrastructure providers. This means that it is already the easiest ecosystem in which to develop and in which to find skills and assets that speed up the solution development process and on which people can build evolving use cases. Some monopolies are better than others. If all network-based businesses are natural monopolies, then why does it matter which one wins? The answer is that open, decentralized monopolies are not the kind of monopoly that users and enterprises need to worry about. Centralized Web 2 monopolies turned out to be great at building the infrastructure of digital markets and connecting buyers and sellers, but once they matured into a stable, monopoly-like market leader, their business models tended to turn towards extracting value from the ecosystem. Digitizing commerce is immensely valuable, and in the economic model that drives stock market valuations, growth is always required. The most profitable way to grow is to extract more value from your customer base. If you run a market that connects buyers and sellers, that means charging more, but it also means mining the data in the transaction information to develop new businesses. From consumer auctions to retail to ride sharing, it's a familiar pattern. The internet itself is a form of monopoly that has gotten cheaper over time. We're not used to thinking about the internet as a monopoly, but it is. In the 1990s, there were many available network choices. Today, there's only one. And while people do complain about the cost of internet access, often delivered by monopoly cable TV and telecom operators, the internet itself is only getting cheaper and better, and it has no serious challengers. The difference is that the internet is an open, permissionless, and decentralized monopoly. Anyone can join, contribute, and use it. There's no central authority in a position to control access, decide which applications can be used, or to mine or access transactional data. The result is an endlessly innovative ecosystem. Public blockchains like Ethereum follow the same model as the internet. They are public, permissionless, and decentralized systems. Because it is a network model, it is destined to be a monopoly. But if we are going to end up putting our business models on a monopoly network, a public and permissionless monopoly is the only kind worth having. Of course, nothing is forever. I think Ethereum, like many major technology standards, could be around for a very long time. That being said, eventually something drastically better, newer, or just entirely different and more useful will come along. Then the market leader will be replaced. As my old boss said, dictatorship tempered by assassination. Thank you, Paul Brody. Excellent. That's chapter 8, or portions of chapter 8, out of his new book, Ethereum for Business. All proceeds go to public goods, people. This is a Regen Library favorite of mine. I hope you enjoy this book as well. If you could grab it at the University of Arkansas Press, don't forget to take your picture next to the book, shoot them an email, and they will shoot you a limited edition NFT good through the rest of the year on the Polygon Network. If you know somebody that has some writings you would like for us to put into the Regen Library, simply reach out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, hitting a like, and sharing within your communities. Are you interested in having a Greenpill chapter? Hit us up at greenpill.network. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at GreenpillNet. On behalf of the Regen Library, Greenpill, and Paul Brody's book, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City. Damn, that's a big beat.